Hello everyone, I am casting some of the replays that were not cast during the Alima League number 126 that happened last week, so something like June 20th? Something like that? Math is hard, guys. It was a week and 2 days ago. But the series I decided to cast is going to be Reynor versus Alive. Reynor also played versus Solar and 2-0'd him, but it wasn't in the replay pack that I could find, unless I'm just blind. But I want to see how his TVZ was. Obviously, seeing how he defeated Solar would have been a little bit cooler, but so be it. We'll see what his versus Terran looks like. Now, I do know the results, and I'll try not to spoil it, but I might mess up, so gotta start getting these spoiler-free. Oh, my cat's very needy. I am currently standing, and he just tried to climb up my leg. Neato. Let's do the introductions before it gets too far along. The top right, as the blue Terran, he is alive. You. And the bottom left, as the red Zerg, it is Reynor. Ah, kitten, why? That's not nice. Little does this kitten know that in about an hour he is going to go to the vet, so he shouldn't be as happy as he is. Anyways, Reynor has recently moved to Korea at this point in time. As I said, it's June 28th today, in case you watch this, I guess, much later on YouTube or something like that. And he went to Korea maybe like 2-3 weeks ago, something like that. I don't know. It was for the GSL qualifiers. He did make it, so spoil it on that one, so that is pretty cool. I think he had a nice bracket for his preferred matchups. I will say right now that most of our foreigner Zergs, as I lose my second monitor here. Oh, that was weird. Do not do well in Korea versus the Terran. I mean, I guess there's a couple of reasons for this. I think this is generally the consensus as well, so it's not just me like spitballing or you know, shooting the shit or something like that. Like, it's generally that there's not a lot of foreigner Terrans that are really very good. Obviously, there are some, Special being one of them, and he did play in this Alima League that we're watching here, but not gonna cast him. But it comes to him for opportunity, especially because, you know, Special and Kalazur, you know, for instance, are both actually playing on the American server, where obviously Reynor's playing on the European one. So that kind of contributes, as well as just different styles too. I think the European Terrans do have some more flair to their games. Obviously Gumio and the like have some interesting games as well, but there's always that foreigner flair, where this Korean Terrans are really well known for their mechanics. So I think it's a bit of a, you know, lack of practice, as well as just a different style. And that has been the trend. You know, Sero goes over GSL vs. the World last year, and is just, you know, constantly saying how he's, everyone's saying, really, that, you know, his versus Terran is going to be his weak point, so I don't know really how he's going to do. And I think Sero still thinks that versus Terran is his weak point, but I'm not too sure about that. It doesn't seem like the guy really has a weak point. So, you know, if you don't make it the GSL offline qualifiers, even though Reynor did, then at least you can stay in Korea for a little while, which in and of itself is a fantastic experience. But then you also get all of this great training on the Korean ladder, especially when it comes to versus Terran. So it's not, unfortunately, there's no like one-to-one like, hey, I was in Korea for 3 months, so my versus Terran bumped up 5 levels. Like, that doesn't actually happen, nor is it so quantifiable, right? But there's a lot of talk about people coming back from Korea and being like, yes, the experience was worth it, especially because now, thanks to like the Unity House, you can actually stay in a comfortable environment for an extended period of time, as opposed to just maybe for like 2 weeks or something like that. But that spiel is basically covered, the initial boring minutes of the TVZ matchup. Now we're into something a little more interesting. Alive has been harassing with his Helens a little bit. It's actually very annoying for Reynor having to micro this, but he's going to try and get a scout in. He's going to see that's a 1-1-1. Vikings already taking that out, but he sees there's nothing on the starport or the barracks, so that's most likely going to be a medevac. Oh, it could be a liberator, but then I think I'm questioning here, you know, personally, why isn't there a tech lab on the barracks? And there's usually one or the other. Oh boy. Oh no. He did make some lings, so they can't really sacrifice. Well, oh god, okay, alright, this might be a short game then. The lings unfortunately get barbecued as Alive just micros a little bit, and no drop necessary, no Hellbats necessary, as that was his ultimate goal, was to make these Hellbats. If he had lost all of these Hellions to the links around, that actually would have significantly crippled Alive's follow-up, but instead he is getting so many kills. So we're not using Game Heart. I'll show you when the Workers killed 18 in total for some measly Hellions. Those are mineral only. They're still being reactored out. That's a very great trade. Very, very good. Is he gonna go in a mech after this? Maybe not. Okay, yeah, the 2 barracks are coming down. Engineer base actually right on the way too. It's always a bit questionable just because, you know, if you see so many Hellions, then it kind of starts to signify that. But in this case, it was really more of like, if I don't make extra Hellions after taking, you know, after losing all of them, even though they did good work, I could potentially lose to a counter. It's a bit different on 16-bit having a wall though, but obviously Alive still wanted a couple, as you don't have a lot of production elsewhere. You're just, you know, you're building your 3rd CC, you're building all your barracks, and that is going to be kind of the safety Hellions that aren't going to be too useful anymore. And these, well, they're trying to do some more damage, but they are being deflected. Now, Reynor finds himself in a very, very bad position. He just droned a lot to try and make up for it, but, you know, you imagine if he'd been doing everything perfectly, he already would have been at 60 drones. His layer is also a little delayed, maybe more than he wanted, or maybe this is just with his scouting, he knew he could, because there weren't any Banshees on the way. But either way, typical hooks, not exactly going to be speedy. His upgrades are probably a little delayed too. You gotta make sacrifices after taking so many drone losses. And upgrades can oftentimes be the first thing to go. You know, especially with Banelings, you're kind of hoping like, well, maybe they won't have the best upgrades, and he is going to be behind on the upgrades. Well, maybe they at least still connect. And I don't think there's an upgrades point where Banelings kill power to Marines changes. I don't think so anyways. But regardless, so Reynor's in emergency, you know, just comeback modes. He's trying to deal with any other follow-up attacks, and he did deal with this. Now there's 4 Hellions, and they do add on to that drone kill count up to 24, so 6 more there, 8 more. And then they're still going to get out, which is just absolutely terrible because 4 Hellbats will actually contribute to the follow-up push. And Reynor is taking this 4th base to note. I'm actually unsure if this is really a great idea by Zergs. Now, Reynor's in a bad position, so just pretend that he's not. So that's like a normal game. Maybe it's okay because maybe the creep spread's a little pushed farther out. Maybe he's a little more in control of the map. But even if that was the case, there's a pretty nasty tank spot here. The tank doesn't actually reach the hatchery, but it obviously covers most of everything else, so there's a lot of micro to be done. And I think when you are behind, maybe taking this base is not a great idea, as you do have this base. Yeah, it looks a little scary because what if they doom drop a hanging natural, but it's pretty unlikely, and a couple spore crowds usually deters a Terran from doing that. But yeah, this might be habit. He might actually want this for another reason. I'm not sure which one, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, Alive might be able to really punish that. Some good creep cleanup. That's another way that Reynor could have tried to come back in is, I mean, playing an absolutely perfect game, right? Which includes a lot of creep spread, but not even a lot of creep tumors. And if these queens are found out, if they're sniped, oh, good snipe on the Banelings, then he will be severely lacking on the bottom side. Them even having to go up to deal with that, to replace that, is kind of a bad sign. Combat shield is almost ready to go. Alive's push, I say, would almost be ready to go if he had a tank here. Oh, there they are. I was like, no way there's his first tank on the way. Okay. So he's not going to use this position, which is by far the less creep spread. He is going to try and attack up here. Now, he has to clear the creep spread again, but it's like 1 scan's worth, maybe 2. And then you have the high grounds, low grounds, and a bit of a choke to abuse too. It's the 2 choices on 16-bit. Matters how you want to play the game. And since Alive is taking the 4th base out here, I guess he's going to have that nice like jumping off point that also defends his extra base. Reynor doesn't really have any units to try and deny that or distract, as everything is going into the defense over here. He's actually dropping the Hellbat to the main. And the defense over here. Another thing I don't like when Zergs do this. The hatchery at the 3rd just makes it even more of a choke. Like, I don't know. Why does that happen? Why do they do that? Questions. Now, if Reynor could get a 6th around, this might be doable, but he's going to lose that macro hatchery. He's going to just continue having lost mining in the main base as the drones would be pulled off, and no! Okay, they're going to be saved by the Lings. Didn't lose any more drones, but oh, actually engagement goes down, and it's not... it wouldn't be too bad if the creep spread was farther, but having to roll that far in with the Banelings was not as good of a trade as Reynor was really hoping for. It wasn't a terrible trade if everything else that has happened in this game hasn't happened. Then it's like, you know, totally fine, but even having some trouble cleaning this up, losing a lot of Lings. I mean, he has vision of his natural. would be natural, but still doesn't mean that you can respond quickly to it. And this is, I mean, it's a doable game for Reynor. It is. Like, that was a nice cleanup. He's got some okay creep spread. He needs to just kind of fill some of these gaps, like around here. It's a doable game for him, but you know, as much as we're watching Reynor's side of the map and saying like, okay, well, he's not dealing with any more pushes, and you know, he saved this base, that's great. You look at Alive's side of the map, you know, him already having the 4th base, him having those 3/3 upgrades already started. That's pretty good. I'm a little surprised his +1 attack weapons was late, really, but it doesn't seem like he didn't go for a second factory, so it's not like he's really depending on a lot of tanks. Already up to those extra barracks for 4 Marauders at a time. Oh no, he did get second factory. But where? Oh, there you are. Kind of looks like a supply depot to me. Alright. I was gonna say, it's not usual that you don't go for a second factory, even if you're not going well into the upgrades, but I figured maybe he was. Nope. Still, gonna have that late +1. Doesn't affect the game like it used to, I guess. But still nice to have. I hope he goes into the armor afterwards if this game continues on. Like the Center Tower, yeah. Unfortunately, Reynor does occasionally do some run-bys. I wouldn't label him like a, well, I guess he would not be named, right? Life, as someone who is constantly run-bying and distracting, but he certainly can, and I think he knows that he would love to. But the way this game has gone, the fact that it's going to be a planetary anyways, not really going to help him out too much, so all focused on trying to deal with the push. Now, he's on his way to a hive, and he's going to try and get to a greater spire. Nice cleanup here. That's going to take a long time. The hive was already delayed to do everything that he did to survive to this point, and then you have to wait for the greater spire, then the corruptors, then the broodlords. That's a long time. Ultras would be a little less time invested, but they would be pretty much, I mean, I feel like they would be countered. The marauder count is getting insanely high. And the tank count also, if it's not going to be torn down at any point, it's not the best. You know, he's skipping some production rounds with it, but 6 tanks would still be scary. Broodlords would absolutely slaughter an army like this, but he's trying to get this concave set up. It's not bad, actually, coming in from like 4 different angles, but almost entirely off creep. That's gonna cost him, I think, maybe even the game. There's a lot of bile left over just before the 3/3 finishes, but Alive absolutely takes that engagement. If there was more creep spread, if the army wasn't as spread out as it was, if Alive was a little more over-eager, overzealous, then that could have been a victory for Reynor, at least, you know, won the battle, lose the war still, but I think he loses the battle and loses the war here. Alive is starting to make a lot of money. He could easily go up to 5, 6 bases, extra orbitals, you name it. Not rallying down quite yet, so he is going to be cleaned up. And Reynor does save his base, which is often the most important. I guess he had to cancel this one, but... Oh, it's all eyes on that greater spire. Is he really going to get the time to do that? And is Alive ever going to realize what's going on? Alive did drop in the main like a long time ago, but all his other drops have been in the natural, so he does not realize a hive is done. It's 13 minutes. A hive should be done, even with the amount of pressure he's applied, but it is a question of what he's trying to go for, and still seeing no ultras. I feel like Alive should be like, whoa, wait a second. Is it going to be broodlords? And I think he'll eventually scan in the main, but right now he's not too worried about it. Okay, he's going to go up the starports, the fusion core. I mean, he's getting everything you need in late game scenario. Reynor tried to remax as fast as possible, but he's just not going to catch up to Alive. And unfortunately comes into this engagement like 30 supply down. Once again, has multiple angles to work with, but this is that spot I was talking about with the tanks, which is absolutely brutal. Unfortunately, even with that surround, once again the lack of creep spread, once again the tank positioning, just too good. And Alive is going to win this game. It really helped that he killed so many drones in the early game, but for Reynor to survive to 14 minutes with some decent holds after losing almost 20 drones right off the bat, that is pretty impressive. And Alive, you know, he's one of the standards of the Elima League of any. He's got that home field advantage. Reynor's not willing to give up. I guess he's taken a couple of good engagements, so he's hoping another one will happen, but it's definitely game. GG. Looks like Reynor has also adapted to the Korean Hangul. Okay. On to game number 2, which is going to be on acid plants. Dun, 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 dun. Bliss is gonna flag this because I mentioned life. Is this Home Story Cop? No. I don't know, it would give you the impression that it was. Let me get rid of all these spoilers here. And now let's start the game. Whoops, wrong scene. There we go. Do my sub replay. Maybe. I actually might have some time to do some sub replays. I was thinking I would do sub replays maybe on Thursdays, but starting next week. We'll see. I am still standing, yes. That's what a standing desk does. It's pretty cool. Alright, let's start the game. We are into game number 2 of this series that was played in the Lima League of last week. In the top left, losing that last game, but almost managed to get like almost a comeback going. It is going to be the blue Zerg, the European in Korea. It's Reynor. In the bottom right, as the red Terran, he is alive. Titan EX1 has that bugged profile because it's a replay. Lovely. Wish we had the technology for laying down desks. I mean, I don't think that'd be very comfortable, to be honest. You ever tried laying down and typing on a computer? It would be pretty hard. Ooh, there's already something to talk about. We have a fairly early pool coming out here for Reynor. Played a serious macro game on 16 bits, but was... I mean, he wasn't punished for it. He just made a mistake. He didn't have a good enough lings around or enough queens to deal damage, but... you know, that does happen. I don't think he really made any mistakes or he was overly greedy. Maybe you could say he should have made more lings. I guess that's what you could say. But that's not why he lost so many drones. It was just a mistake of a regular game. This game, he just says, okay, well, I'm still gonna mix things up, go for an earlier pool, maybe get that kill on the SCV, and also, most importantly, stop myself from getting 2 racks or 3 racks and then, you know, having to leave the tournament really, really early. And certainly Alive can do it 3 racks, and certainly you can do it on Acid Plant. But I say that, Reynor did not actually use his Overlords to scout, so... And with 6 lings instead of 2, he really does mean to deal some significant damage to really throw Alive off guard. Oftentimes, if they are just kind of doing this for the 2-3 racks defense, they'll scout over here with an Overlord and then only make 2 lings, just for the SCV, you know, to bother the SCV, basically. But that is not what happened here. We have a lot of lings and both Overlords headed over to the other side of the map. It's gonna scout what it's, what it expects anyways. Like a Reaper's gonna come out here. Not quite see the Overlord, but the Overlord sees it. But there is no extra Marine, which I figured Reynor would have wanted to scout, honestly. I'm a little surprised that he didn't, because you can see if the reactor's on, and even if they are building a Marine, well, your lings are coming anyways. It's not like the Overlord would die. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. This Reaper is gonna scout, hey, there's no creep spread already. And then should immediately dart back, but he's not. And he took up a second. It's funny how sometimes you'll see Terrans like realize, oh wait, that creature's not far enough out, and instantly go back, and other times they're probably just like, oh, time to get a drone. Wait a second. So, I mean, that 1 or 2 seconds difference usually isn't substantial enough, but because it's 6 lings, it's actually pretty substantial. SCVs are pulled to deal with this, and Reynor is getting that damage that he wanted. I mean, the ideal scenario that really should not happen is that you get the cancel on the command center. Really, the only thing that ever truly expects the cancel on the command center, I think, is the speedling addition to this. So you actually get gas and you go for faster speed. And a 1 base road gravity rush. Like, obviously there's more, but the point is when you go for the earlier pool, but not super early pool, even if you get 6 lings, as long as you're slow, I don't think you're supposed to lose the command center, and thankfully Alive does not. If he had, that would have been the ideal for Reynor. Still, Reynor gets a lot of lost mining time. He got 2 SCVs. The Reaper does not know what's happening behind this. That was cute. He really wanted that Overlord. And is now going to go scout, but there's always that fear that maybe something else is happening, so... Might not have been his plan to get a Widow Mine. Maybe it was. Might have been planning to go for Widow Mine drop this entire time. Usually you'd see that swap off, of course, and go to Hellions. Okay. Alright, well, maybe you. The Reaper is going to scout that it's a 3rd hatchery and that everything is a-okay on the macro side. Alex just had to say a standing desk feels nice and natural. Yeah, it's very different than like a treadmill desk. I don't know how people would do that for longer than like 30 minutes at a time. Oof. Magnetic mouse was like vertical. Pinnacle, you go pitch that on Shark Tank, is it? See what you can do. Some games, quote-unquote, casted by ZG. Why is it quote-unquote? It makes this sound offensive. This Widow Mine drop was probably a big surprise. I mean, Reynor was almost 100% expecting Hellions, but instead it's a Widow Mine drop. The Widow Mine is not that much of a worry usually, but it's actually going to grab a lot of drones, 4 drones, and it survives. I would say that was a lot of drones, when usually what happens here is a queen soaks it, or a Ling, or a single drone, right? But a lot of things was happening. Reynor was probably surprised, and instead he loses a bit too much while not actually dealing with the drop. Oh, oh, almost spoke too soon. That drop almost ran into all the queens. Oh, I think that was on purpose by Reynor, but didn't quite work out. And now I continue his creep spread. Layers finally on the way at 5 minutes. You see a lot of 4-minute layers in this matchup, but that's oftentimes with a regular Hellion Banshee opener. Where in this game, we do have Banshees on the way. They are a little delayed for what Reynor did to what Alive build looked like. These Banshees are actually going to get that weird, you know, they're a little off time, so they're probably going to be more effective than usual. You don't have any Spore Crawlers, he's not scouted since the early game, having to deal with everything, and you don't quite have an Overseer. The layer's not done, and also very few Zergs immediately grab an Overseer unless they know it's Banshees, so... Now the Banshee showed itself, of course we'll get an Overseer, but he still has to wait for it. There's going to be a lot of damage. Reynor just getting caught very off guard, having lacked that scout after his Overlord died. At speed to help out, and no second suicidal Overlord for when he did realize, hey, I don't have any scouting. I guess there was a Spore Crawler over here, but it's just in a very awkward position, so... And the third base had so many drones, this is a lot of lost mining time, very effective Banshee. And Banshees are great for that defense. You know, you get the surprise, you kill 6 drones, but then they counterattack with roaches, keep your Banshees alive, and you're still good to go. And speaking of roaches, Reynor is trying to get to them, but he started his upgrade so long ago, his Roach Warren is comparatively very late. It's gonna start Roach speed as soon as possible, I imagine, but this is not going so well for Reynor. He's probably getting really mixed up. You can see that a little bit in his macro. His upgrades were on time, and his lair seemed to be what he wanted to get, but I think his Roach Warren was off-timed. I think that his, you know, his larva might be hurting a bit by having to pull his queens everywhere. This is, you know, sometimes you look at the actual number damage that happens to a Zerg, and you're like, you know, that's not so bad, but unless they have the calmness and just peace of mind to continue doing everything else well, I think they're the worst race to be when you get flustered. At least with Terrans, you can be like, okay, just calm down and siege your tanks and try and turtle for a little bit. Sometimes it doesn't look so pretty for Zerg. There are now Spore Crawlers and Overseers, so the Banshee shouldn't do too much more. 4th base is finally on the way. We have a lot of roaches here for Reynor. He's on 57 drones. I mean, his intention for Acid Plant, we've seen this a lot recently, might have been to go for a 1-1 roach push. It is so much later than it should be that I really don't think it's going to work. It's just going to be so less powerful. I guess it still might hit before combat shields, and it's not like he's going to be up against 2-2, but the tank count is going to be up to 3, and the bio production is pretty much in full swing at this point. It looks like Alive either didn't realize it was roaches, which, you know, the return was late, so that's possible, or just doesn't mind having pure marine, but this actually, huh. The Banshees are still doing damage, which is substantial and really bad for Reynor, but Alive pushing into this, not really thinking about a 1-1 timing, I guess. Or just so utterly confident he doesn't care. This would usually be a mistake, I would say. At this point in time, there'd be like, you know, 30 more... Well, actually, there's already 40 more army supply, but maybe there'd be 50 or 60 more army supply, and... Alright, now Alive realizes, like, wait, that's a lot of army. There's no way you're actually just going for a macro game, and also... One of the first indications that Roach Warren wasn't just for a couple safety roaches, it's actually for roaches. Now this is awkward. Roach speed was not started immediately. Maybe missing some micro from here, but alright. Tanks are siege up, getting some pot shots while the rocks are broken down. This can be a double-edged sword, you know? It can be a place where the rocks are already broken down. The tanks are immediately focus fired with corrosive bile, or they get a couple of those nice shots off. Corrosive bile will take these down whenever Reynor decides to push. If he decides to push, he's gonna push. Yeah, he's still making a lot of lings here. Unfortunately, a little supply blocked. This is just not the timing really at which Reynor wants to hit. Maybe just making the best out of a bad scenario. Maybe his initial plan wasn't to hit with that 1-1, but he just was like, okay, it's the only decision I have now. Because he still has a substantial army supply lead. It's just hitting so close to 2-2. I don't think that's really what's supposed to hit. There's a nice little wall here. It's an interesting way to help deal with this. Tanks are... the tanks over here were focus fire, but still 3 tanks blasting away and just so many Marines. And the tanks, yeah, tanks not being taken care of is the worst thing about this. If the tanks weren't protected by the SimCity, by the mass amount of bio, either one is missing, then Reynor probably has won this game. But with that first hold, things usually look a lot better for the Terran. If they can hold the third and hold any amount of tanks, things look really good for this situation. 2-2 is also done, kind of throwing the end of that fight. Got a Liberator harassing over here, so Reynor was at 58 drones. With all the harassment, has gone down to 50. Not going to be a lot of reinforcements for him. We almost have that +1 vehicle weapons as well, so this is looking very good for Alive. And he's already up 1-0 in the series, so I'm feeling his victory. There's a lot of Ravagers left over, but they're not getting close enough to take out all the tanks. And once their Roach wall is dead, they go down super, super, super fast. Hot pickup on that tank. +1's almost done, but I don't think he even needs it. Reynor is running out of steam. Wasn't sure if it was the right word. I was just playing. I know you didn't mean offense. Actually, casted is not the right word, but we're watching the end of this game, so I'm just waiting to see the GG so I can say GG. As Reynor is not going to be able to replace the army, he won't be able to replace the Ravagers, he won't be able to catch up with those upgrades. His only hope would have been to walk away with the army he did have and go into Infestors, and that would not have looked too pretty either. So that's it. Alive takes it 2-0 and advances on in the Lima League.